What is up, guys? Welcome to another video. So in this one, clearing out some space in the garage and in the driveway, we're going to be working on the DC5 Type R barn find.
Perfect.
Now, this little red rocket has 207k on the clock. Foul, that is, not just 207. So she's still pretty fresh, still pretty young. Has no compression across the board from what I'm told. So we're going to check that with just our compression tester, see what we've got to work with. Battery is cooked, very, very dead. Car is pretty average condition at the moment. Paint and everything definitely needs attention. That's how long it just sat doing nothing. These tires are impressively cooked. Very, very impressively cooked. I just got that one GoPro battery that likes to play silly buggers. Rotors and stuff ought to clean up pretty good actually, just a good run. Looks like that door might be a replacement, given that the rest of it's all really faded and all of that. It's open. Oh, that is toasty in there. Interior is, under the schmoo, very good actually. The condition of the seats are down there immaculate. And the Type R mats as well. Let's have a look. Just the old Integra ones. Bolsters are good. Everything looks good in the car, but yeah, compression wise, I'm told zero zilch nada. So we're gonna check that now. Axle nuts off. Good. Let's do our compression test now. All our plugs are out. I will open the throttle full, crank it over a few times. Battery's still a bit iffy, but it's still going to show if we actually get any compression at all. That's all we're really looking for. So might just try and I'll just hold on to you. Let's jump in. The old wide open throttle. Foot to the floor. Alright, so 5 seconds. Oh. Make sure we turn the key off because of our little battery situation. Nothing. Zero zilch. Nada. Let's make sure. Yeah. So, cylinder 1. No pressure at all. So look at that. Nothing on that one. And I dare say the other's going to be the same too. Now I'm not even going to put my foot on the throttle because I don't expect to see anything on it. And so there's a tiny bit of pressure that gets built up, but obviously not enough to create any decent compression. Bum, bum, bum. And then, yeah, nothing. All right, pull this out. I'm gonna chuck the leak down tester on and see if we get any different results. Leak down time. So we'll get our base pressure set at 100 PSI. We've got the cylinder leakage set just above 0. That's pretty much ballpark of what we need. And we got our little tube going into the cylinder boy down there. So what this does, it puts in 100 PSI into that cylinder, and this gauge tells us what percentage of that air is escaping. So 0% means it is a perfect seal. probably not ideal. Usually means that you welded your pistons to your cylinder walls, because air should be escaping to an extent past those rings. Between, what's that? That's got to be like 10, 20, 30, 40. Yeah, so between 10% and 40% on this particular gauge is within a reasonable amount of leak down, obviously 40% being the lower area. Moderate means no good. High means there is a lot of air just bypassing those rings straight off the bat. Yeah, and this test can actually vary depending on where it is in top dead center and all that kind of stuff. So this is probably, I'm going to say, sitting at the bottom of the block, but let's have a look. We'll chuck it in. Now I say that it can be different based on where it is in the cylinder position because of wear and the taper of the bore. The ovality can change everything. So let's chuck this guy on. Rounds up to 45% is escaping. So that's 45% of the air that is getting put into this cylinder is getting back out, and that is not good. That is not going to seal. It's not going to give us good compression. Time to do rings. I'm going to test the other ones. If there's anything crazy, I'll show you. If not, do you presume they're all shit? Leak down time. So we've got our base pressure set at 100 psi. We've got the cylinder leakage set just above 0. That's pretty much ballpark of what we need. And we got our little tube going into the cylinder boy down there. So what this does, it puts in 100 psi into that cylinder, and this gauge tells us what percentage of that air is escaping. So 0% means it is a perfect seal. Probably not ideal. Usually means that you welded your pistons to your cylinder walls, because air should be escaping to an extent past those rings. Between, what's that? That's got to be like 10, 20, 30, 40. Yeah, so between 10% and 40% on this particular gauge is within a reasonable amount of leak down, obviously 40% being the lower area. Moderate means no good. High means there is a lot of air just bypassing those rings straight off the bat. Yeah, let's chuck this guy on. Rounds up to 45% is escaping. So that's 45% of the air that is getting put into this cylinder is getting back out, and that is not good. That is not going to seal. It's not going to give us good compression. Time to do rings. I'm going to test the other ones. If there's anything crazy, I'll show you. If not, do you presume they're all shit? Yeah, got our plugs and stuff back in. Our injectors are plugged back in as well. Chucked a couple of the bit of the old starting fluid in the intake through the little broken port that we've got over here. Chucked probably about 20 litres worth of fresh fuel. A little container down here, so filled that bad boy up. Filled up the tank with that, so that's just fresh from the pump. Charger and everything on. I don't really have the greatest hopes for this, but see what we got. Not a single little pop or fart. So let's see if we can just what's loose. Yep, no bueno. Whee. Looks like we had a little rat infestation here, and they are walnuts. Walnuts? No, what are they? Some kind of nut. Something has been living in here and eating stuff. Not good. Little shitheads. Looks like the wiring limbs all intact from what I can see. I'm just moving the camera around a lot. Let's see what the go is with this guy. There we go. A and B. This guy's physically... I thought the whole thing was broken off. By the way it was jiggling around in there. Maybe it was just loose. Put it back in. So... that one's tight. Should be tight enough. Well, that might have been the problem. It's pretty big. Pretty big problem, really. Chuck a bit more juice in here. Never too much. That's a lie. There is such a thing. Trust me. I left the key on. So let's back that off. Turn it back on. Let's go back. DTC codes. Now the reason I'm going to this trouble of doing this now is because if we can get a cough and a splutter, turn it on. If we can get a cough and a splutter out of it, that is a lot better for us putting it back together and trying to get it to run, as opposed to putting it all back together, new rings and everything, and finding it still doesn't run. So if we can get a cough and a splutter, even if it's down on compression, it is better that we know we've got something to work with, as opposed to, you know, trying to sort all of this with a freshly built motor and being like, well, what the fuck. A lot less risky this way. Not bad for a box that's been set for ages. Alright, so here we go again. Mill status is off, but we have two codes. So we go okay. We're gonna go find our codes and clear them. We just select our Honda codes. Same, done, erase, yes. Nice. So that's those codes erased. Let's see if we can get a little bit of business happening. Come on, girl. And after cranking, so looks like we sorted one out. Okay, that's going to be our O2 sensor again. Specific manufacturer, Honda. Air fuel ratio, sense 1 heater system, electrical problem. So our O2 is not heating, probably just a bad O2 sensor, most likely. But we should still be able to get it to start. Now that we know the motor is not going to do anything good for us, let's get this thing out. And just like that, motor is out. Well, not just like that, but it took a little bit. And if I see any more of these nuts, I'm going to lose my mind. These things are freaking everywhere. So This guy's out. Now is the fun bit. Oh, a little bit of schmill on the camera. You can see, here's the old blower, and all of this has just come out of the car. It's everywhere. So now, I've gone and left the subframe in. The aircon had a little bit of damage, which has kind of degassed the whole setup, which is good in our case because it means I could bring it out of the top, because I could detach this without having to have it degassed. You can see I'm gonna have to get in here with a gurney and really clean all this up. It is quite messy, so yeah, not the end of the world really, but definitely needs a good clean. I think next up we're simply going to have to get this rolling again. So control arms back in, and that's the benefit of leaving the subframe in, is that we can actually put the wheels and everything back on and have it rolling, because without the subframe you can't connect your lower control arms, and that means you can't have it rolling, which, you know, bit of a pain in the ass. Yeah, back at it. So you can see whole thing's pretty much torn apart, realizing we're gonna have to put it on a stand. So you can pull it apart on the floor, but the one thing that I realized pulling out the head studs that is going to be a bit of an issue is trying to get our torque values when we're torquing our head down, because it's quite high in the torque readings, and the same as our mains, same as our, well, not so much the mains actually, just our pistons, the con rods. We're going to have to get our torque specs schmick. Not going to be able to do that on the floor, not reliability, and yeah, so still sculling back my first coffee, but we're going to pull this trans off and get her up on a stand. So probably going to have to take old Brian's K24 down off there just for the time being for today. Pull that guy off, put this on the stand, tear her down, get these pistons out. So you can see we got the ball hone in there, so that's what I'm going to be using just to give this a quick clean up. Pistons, everything inside, yeah, not too bad. Could be worse. There is some slight rusting at the top, and there's definitely some polishing of these walls. They've not too cross-hatched anymore, so yeah, we'll clean those up. See what we can do. There's some polishing on that side down the bottom there too, but we're just gonna have to make do with what we got. Oop. See what we can do with this setup. So these cleaned up pretty bloody good. Got all our bores honed, need to give them a wipe down and clean out. We have our piston rings, so these are Hastings piston rings. What can you say, they're piston rings. We've got our pistons all cleaned up. So I'm gonna go have a look over here. These bad boys are nice and clean, so now I just gotta get the gaps for the rings right. Now the old piston rings were very, very much stuck, like jammed up all in there. So much carbon buildup and old oil stuck in there. Yeah, so I'm gonna get all of these done and then we'll chuck them in the pistons. Yeesh, I get everything everywhere today. Rings are in, they're all good, checked out, bit on the looser end of the spectrum, but not the end of the world. We just want this engine back to get it running. We've got some new bearings for the con rods, given that the old ones were pretty clapped out. So now the rings are in. We've got our piston ring compressor over there somewhere. Yeah, it's up on the bench. Man, look at all this stuff going on. Man, what the hell? Anyway, time to get our pistons in. So I'm going to slap some assembly lube on these new bearings, and we are just going to start dropping them in the holes. So I've gone through and cleaned the block again, just used basically just a whole can of degreaser. You just run it through the whole thing, get some compressed air in there. You can get your compressed air on the port of the oil pump on the bottom there. So if you just get it where the oil pumps through there and just use compressed air, you'll see you can blow a lot of the old oil out, a lot of debris and all that crap come out. Just makes it a little bit nicer when you go to put all that new oil in. So do that, clean her up, clean your bores down, make sure the bores are nice and clean and dry, and yeah, let's slap these bad boys in. This is definitely one of the messier builds I've ever done, but just raw dog it, do it on the floor, should be right. So we have everything torqued down, our rods and everything are in. She spins up nice and free, there's no scoring on spin over. No scoring on the bores, which is what we want. You want to make sure there's no cuts or anything from the points, the sharp points of the piston rings that we've just filed and slapped in there. So that's all good. Everything up top is clean, everything on the bottom is clean. Next up, given that this is kind of like a damn floor. Anyway, we got some great RTV on this guy because boom, done. We got our timing all set up. So I had to get a new timing chain tensioner because the other one was cooked. I'll show you that. Everything else cleaned up pretty good. I had to actually tap some of these bolts here because someone had gone ham on them prior and kind of stripped or began to strip. So I went and cleaned those up, done that. That's why it's been a minute. So it's actually night time now. Cleaned all this up, we got all of that in. I still need to do the valve lash, but obviously timing first. Everything cleaned up pretty alright. Still a little bit of goop in there, but nothing too dramatic. My first oil flush will sort that. This guy's all sorted out, which is good. So the timing marks are all link, done. You can tell these two are separated, but I think we got the old 50-degree VTCs playing silly buggers there. So you can see them. A bit off. Both links on the, or single link on the bottom's good. Chain's all in the right place, so we are good to go there. And yeah, afternoon, lads. So as you can see, already done. Got all of our accessories and all that kind of stuff on. Timing's done, valve lash is done. All the bits and pieces, all the small tiny things are done. Not really much left but to put the gearbox on, a couple of cables that need to go on. This is all the stuff that's kind of left to go now. So gearbox bolts, cooked front mount. We got the backing plate for the clutch. That is a small wiring loom bracket that sits under the manifold here. Oh, nope, there. Well, obviously exhaust manifold, mid shaft, heat cover, clutch, and flywheel, and well, obviously the gearbox. And yeah, looking bloody good so far. Can't really pick anything wrong. I mean, it's not as pretty as I would like it to be, but it's gonna hold the oil in it. It's gonna run smooth, clean, efficiently. It's just aesthetically, needs like a, I don't know, dry ice, maybe. I think that'll probably clean this up the best. You know, they do the dry ice blasting to restore stuff. I think that would probably be the go for this if you can get into all these bits and pieces. But yeah, nope, swap out the old oil filter too. Yeah, well, gave the car itself a good clean, gave the floor a good clean, all of that's come out. All our plastics, axles and everything, gave it a good clean up. You can see in here, she's a little bit tidier. I mean, never gonna be perfect unless you go full ham, go completely crazy with it. But still, definitely a lot nicer than what it was, so good start. We are going to drop the engine. Given that this is now a complete engine with all accessories, I'm not going to try and deadlift that. I'm going to chuck it on the crane, put it on the ground, put the clutch, flywheel on the motor, put the gearbox on, strap it together. We'll get our exhaust manifold and stuff on once it's on the ground, and then it will be time to put her in and test it out. Well, that is this magnificent thoroughbred Type R motor and box back together. Everything's all back together as it came apart. Bloody good actually. No extra bolts, no spares, nothing like that, which is always a bonus. Everything went on, there's no cross threading or anything. Obviously we still got to go through and fix this up because something decided to eat it. Not ideal, but that's cut and splice, nice and easy. So that should give us our reverse lockout, speed sensor, and our reverse lights back. Actually, I think that's on a separate loom, so hopefully, less wiring for me. Oh, we're gonna fix this guy here. Give me that. So, these always get stuck on. They are usually under a little gray sleeve, which I think is actually over here. Man, I am exhausted. No shoulders at the gym today. There you go. So, that's that guy there. So we're gonna re-crimp this. It's pretty straightforward. You can actually open these little guys up. It's almost like they're designed to be broken. Open it up, spread it, clamp it, chuck it back on, should be good. That's our oil pressure light, so definitely a must. And now once this bay is dried, you can see it's actually scrubbed up pretty good. Like, not bad at all actually, not too bad. I've seen a lot worse, especially in the Accords. Generally they're not as well maintained and looked after as the DC5Rs. But yeah, my plan is to dump this into the bay tonight. We'll, what's our time? 7:30. Oh. Yeah, I will. I'll dump it in the bay tonight. Right, so making some pretty bloody good progress. Got the engine in last night, got some of the wiring and some of the mounts done. Most of the stuff that I could do without the rado gun because it was getting a bit late. So, looking good. She's actually cleaning up pretty okay. Not too shabby. Now we are up to some of the more substantial wiring. So I've pulled this plastic sheath off, the plastic covering here. You can see Rat's really had a good time with this loom. There's a few wires and unfortunately they are quite short. So I have to cut back some of this plastic. We gotta reattach this guy down here. That's speed sensor and all that stuff. So I'll get that done. I will then get most of this wiring slapped on for you. You can see we got our power steering and AC and all these lines kind of sitting on, good to go. I still need to do the rear engine mount and the exhaust. We had to change an O2 sensor as well because we had the code for that bad one, so I'll do that. And then once we're at that point, I'll get back to you. But all the wiring is done. We've got all of our nonsense. It was a bit of a mission actually. A lot of it was too short. I had to double extend it. Wiring is done. Wiring is all in, plugs are in. We've built up oil pressure. We had an issue with oil pressure. I chucked a gauge on there and we had sufficient oil pressure, but the actual sensor itself kept the light on. So the light would dim when you turn on the car, so you'd spin it up, get oil pressure. When you got oil pressure, it would simply dim. It wouldn't turn the light off, and that was because this guy here, it was a faulty sensor. Thankfully a faulty sensor, because if it was like the actual oil pump or an O-ring or just something else, I would have died. So that's that done. We have brought it up to temperature, so she starts and runs. I'll show you that in a second. Issue we have now is two issues actually. One is the battery is not charging, so we've got a battery light on the dash, so I need to diagnose that. First and foremost is the IACV is pulsating. It's bringing in a lot of air and dumping air, which means revs are coming up, revs are going down, oscillating backwards and forwards. Rev hunting is commonly what it's called. So I'm going to pull this throttle body off. We are going to clean out the IACV, or idle air control valve, and see if that sorts out the problem. And then we're going to work out why this alternator is not alternating. That's not really how they work, but you know, we're going to work out what the charge issue is. There's a lot of white smoke, especially on my first startup. There was huge plumes, and I honestly thought that it was a head gasket that was gone, but the first start had no coolant in it, so no coolant, white smoke, doesn't really make sense. But I talked to the owner, and it turns out that they dumped a whole lot of ATF, a whole lot of different oils, a whole lot of miracle oils that are meant to free up piston rings through the cylinders, and cranked it over. Obviously dumping a lot of that through, or all of that actually through back through the exhaust, so all of that needs to burn off. So that is bloody fantastic. But this is how she's running. So starts up, warms up real good, and then if I put my thumb over the, whoop, that's hot, over the port, you can see that's what's doing it. But the problem is, if I take the battery terminal off, she dies, which means that the car is not supplying its own power. It's not running off the alternator, so that's the next issue. But yeah, first and foremost, it's a pain in the ass with that, you know, pulsing, revving. So I would like the car to sit in idle for quite some time to let that exhaust burn out. Obviously not with the pulsing, so I'm going to get this cleaned up, get that done, which looks like. Alright boys, so that is the DC5 done. Starts, runs, the battery even holds charge. Just charging it because she's coming to get picked up on the tow truck this morning.
everything's fine. Burnt out all the crap through the exhaust. It does still need some attention to the alternator and the O2 sensor, but the owner said there's a little bit of wiring that needs dealing with inside the cabin. So instead of replacing the alternator and the O2, which is a bit of dollary dues, we are going to have someone check out the wiring and see if they can just patch that up, because that's likely the cause. Same as the wiring that was under there for the speed sensor and everything. Other than that, good to go. So refreshed, new rings, everything. She is healthy. She is back from the dead basically, because realistically that was just going to be a part out, rest of it in the trash, because she's a bit rough, and obviously without a running engine you wouldn't spend the time to kind of recondition and bring her back to life. So good result. Yeah, just the old turnkey package now. So car's going up for sale after the owner gives the interior a bit of a clean, but it's literally jump in, car on, easy as that. So yeah, that'll be the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that. Any questions or queries, or if you're interested in the car, hit me up on Instagram or YouTube comments, all that kind of good stuff. And yeah, thank you for watching.